Welcome to REIGN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josey. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josey. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josey, creator of REIGN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is how to bounce back from a bad deal. Every investor hits a bump or a brick wall at some point. What separates the best from the rest is how you handle setbacks. A bad deal isn't the end, it's just another chapter in your badass story. Here are 5 actionable tips to bounce back stronger. Number 1, own your mistakes. No blaming, no excuses. Take responsibility and learn from what went sideways. Number 2, analyze what went wrong. Break it down honestly. Was it due diligence, timing, or just bad luck? Clarity is the first step to growth. Number 3, share your experiences. Talk about it with your mastermind or network. You'll get advice, support, and maybe save someone else from the same fate. Number 4, update your systems. Adjust your checklists, your contracts, your systems, so history doesn't repeat itself. And number 5, get back in the game. Don't let fear paralyze you. The best investors keep moving forward one deal at a time. So remember, REIGN Nation, failure isn't fatal, it's fuel. Use every setback as a setup for your next success. Now on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us Jack Martin, co-founder of 5210, an investment firm based in Scottsdale, Arizona that's making waves in the world of mobile home park investing. Jack and his team manage 1,600 lots across 5 states, stewarding over $55 million in private investor capital and helping clients invest with confidence in one of America's most stable real estate assets. With a career that includes over $450 million in residential and commercial acquisitions and a spotless record of investor satisfaction, Jack is all about recession-resistant strategies and delivering predictable peace of mind returns. It's my pleasure to have him on the show, so welcome, Jack Martin. Listen to that. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for inviting me on a Friday, Jen. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. We were both complaining about the heat where we live. You aren't where you happen to live right now. You are enjoying some cooler weather, but we were arguing who had it worse. And I feel like I was drenched earlier today on site at a project, but we won't dwell in that. We are here to talk about you. So welcome to the show. And I am so excited because mobile home park investing, you say it's recession-proof, and I want to dig into that a little bit later, but let's go to basics. What drew you to this niche and what makes it stand out from other real estate asset classes?
If I'm honest, I tripped over this niche. I tripped over this niche. But what I saw when I found it, I'll give you a quick little funny story. I was an apartment guy, former developer, did about 2,000 single family homes, got into apartments, did almost 1,000 apartment units. And then I was trying to buy an apartment that was vacant, boarded up in a small town in northern Arizona. And the city wouldn't let me bring it back online because it was missing parking. So there's a little half acre mobile home park right next door. I bought that. Now I had the parking. Long story short, the city never wanted that to be brought back on as an apartment. Today, that building is a government building. Wink,
Oh,
wink. So now I own a mobile home park. That's how I got into the business. But when I repositioned it, filled it up, and stabilized it, it was without question the easiest asset to own, and it produced the most cash flow of anything I'd ever owned.
wow.
That's when I said, "Hey, hold on, we should do more of this." So that's how it got started.
Wow. So let's go to basics for the listeners here. What is a mobile home park? And are you buying the mobile homes in addition to the park? Are you just buying the land? Like, break it all down for us, please.
The simplest way to explain a mobile home park is if you can imagine a giant parking lot, instead of parking cars in each one of the parking spaces, you park homes,
Okay.
mobile homes. They're called mobile because they come in on wheels. Truth is, they're not really very mobile after that.
Right.
So rarely do they ever move out, but that's how they're delivered. They come on wheels and then they're set kind of permanently in place. They can be moved, but it doesn't make any economic sense. It costs
Okay.
10, 20,000 bucks to move them. So the tenants own the homes. Like here's the difference, and this is a very important like ingredient of mobile home parks. No other real estate has this dynamic where we own the real estate, but everybody that lives on the property is a homeowner.
Okay.
So they're making a permanent housing decision when they purchase a home. So they own the home, they do all their own maintenance, they take care of the home, they take care of all the landscaping on their lot.
Oh,
And then we take care of the roads and the common areas like a pool or clubhouse or any kind of common amenities, lighting, common area landscaping, that kind of thing. So our expenses are really low once it's fully stabilized, and they're very stable. So there's a few unique intrinsics about mobile home parks that most people don't know. I like to educate people because either they haven't heard of mobile home parks or the stereotype of trailer trash
right.
causes them to not look deeper. But the things that stand out about mobile home parks that investors love and then owners like myself love is the fact that it's the most stable real estate asset class. And I think that's by a wide margin. And the tax benefits are
Oh,
wild. They're incredible. So we can talk a little bit about that. But let's talk about why they're stable. This will lean towards the recession resilience. Two things stand out. They're the most affordable real estate,
true.
and again by a wide margin. So typically in the same neighborhood, the cost to live in a mobile home park, like the rental rate for the lot that you pay for, is half of the next most affordable option, like a two-bedroom apartment.
Wow.
So it's not like a little bit more affordable, it's dramatically more affordable. So the affordability is what attracts people. If you look at kind of a tier of housing solutions, you have luxury housing, and then you have kind of like suburb or subdivision housing, and then you have apartments, and then you have mobile home parks. Like that's the more affordable it gets. The only more affordable place is your parents' basement. And you don't have a lot of freedom or autonomy there, right? So yeah, the thing that attracts people to mobile home parks is the affordability. But the thing that makes it unique is you have home ownership. You own the home. Now here's the thing that causes them to be so stable. And we'll talk about COVID, and this will kind of help people recognize why they survive recessions and events like COVID so well. In a traditional rental environment, if somebody doesn't pay the rent, they get evicted.
Right.
It might take 90 days or to get them out, but what they lose or what they walk away from is their deposit, 800 bucks or whatever their deposit was, right? In the mobile home park business, if you fail to make your lot rent, you do get evicted, but the penalty is you have to leave your home there.
Ooh.
So the park owner gets your house.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so because of that, there's just no default, or it's rare. It's extremely rare. I mean, I've been in this business for over a decade. We have almost 2,000 lots now, and it's only happened twice.
Wow.
And the two times that it happened, both involved a death. So somebody passed away, kids
Okay.
got the home, they didn't want it.
Ah,
So like an old 60s vintage home, they didn't want it. So they just let it be, and eventually we own the home. So the truth is, it doesn't make any economic sense for someone to avoid making a $500 lot rent payment and put their $100,000 mobile home at risk. That
Right.
would nobody would do that, right?
Right.
So if we back up to COVID, and this will be a great illustration of how resilient mobile home parks are, there was a moratorium on eviction for
Right.
probably 10 to 12 months, depending on the state that you were in.
Yep.
During that period of time, if you didn't pay the rent, you couldn't be evicted. However, at the end of the moratorium, when it was lifted, then you could be evicted. Well, if you're strategically playing the game as a resident, you could say, well, I don't have to pay the rent, so I'm not going to. And I'm going to spend this money on a new TV or trading Bitcoin on Robinhood or whatever. And because that was rampant, right? But at the end of the 10 or 12 months, you were evicted and you lost your deposit, but you didn't have to pay 10 or 12 months worth of rent. In the mobile home park business, if somebody did that, they knew that at the end they had to catch up on all the back rent and the fees and costs, or they would have to forfeit their home. So during that moratorium, we collected 100% of the lot rent,
Wow.
all of our properties that were lot rent. Now, we did have a couple rentals. Like when we purchase properties, sometimes they come with some park-owned rentals. They defaulted. It was that was the game. I don't have to
Right.
pay the rent. Okay, fine, I won't. So they got evicted, and then we sold those homes, and now those people pay the lot rent. So I think the thing that really stands out is the home ownership. And there's no other real estate asset class where I own the land, but I don't own the homes or the units. Those are all owned by the residents. So it creates a very stable, predictable cash flow experience.
You painted that picture so perfectly and made it so easy to understand. So thank you for that. I did write some questions down. So you said it's a parking lot, but there are hookups there for electrical, and then is it septic for each one, or like I'm thinking of the movie The Shitter's Full. Like
Mhm.
how do they what else do they need in that actual parking spot, as you called it?
Yeah, so there's utility hookups. So, every park's a little bit different, but usually
Okay.
there's water, sewer, and electric.
Okay.
And then in some cases, there's also gas. Different parts of the country require heating.
Oh,
In some parts of the country, there's cable hookups and that kind of stuff. But at a minimum, there's water, sewer, and electric. Typically, the electric is direct billed. So
okay.
the tenant pays their bill directly to the utility company, an electric service company. And then typically the water that comes into a property is master metered as it comes into the park. So the park's responsibility to sell it. And the number of units that's used usually equates to the number of units that are charged for sewer. So water
Okay.
coming in gets charged sewer for going out. We typically will put submeters on every single one of the lots so that the tenant pays for their actual number of units of water that's used, and the same
Nice.
thing with sewer. Yeah. Now there is
Very smart.
septic. Some parks have septic. Depends on when it was built and where it was when it was built. But most commonly, the parks that we buy are going to be city water, city sewer.
Okay. Nice. What are some typical lot rents?
I think the average across the country is in the mid 500s range.
Wow.
So at the kind of extreme ends of the spectrum, on the coast in California is like $2,500 a month. But those mobile homes also sell for like $1 million.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
Yeah. So that's the cheapest real estate on the coast. And then like in rural parts of the Midwest, you might have lot rents that are $150 a month.
Okay. Yeah,
But in
in my
most
neck of the woods, it's like 250 or something.
Yeah, in most kind of like call it primary and secondary markets, it's probably somewhere in the range of $500 to $700 a month.
Okay. Wow. Goodness. You are making this sound magical. I got to check this out. So, as an investor, if somebody's out there listening and they want to get into it, what do they look for if they're assessing a property? Are you buying raw land and creating a mobile home park? Are you buying a mom and pop who's going out of business, buying theirs, taking over the business? What does that process look like, and what do you look for when purchasing a mobile home park?
A lot of nuance with this question,
I know, it was
but
loaded.
let's dive in. Let's dive in.
Okay.
So first of all, mobile home parks of size are rarely, like new mobile home parks are rarely built. This isn't because there's not the desire. The holy grail of a mobile home park is a brand new one with
Okay.
brand new infrastructure and state-of-the-art amenities and a clubhouse and pool and all that fun stuff, right? The challenge that you run into is it's almost impossible to get zoning approval from the municipalities. And there's
It
two reasons
is.
behind this. One is they are seeking highest and best use for land. So when you think about mobile home parks, typically have a density of 10 units per acre. Let's call it a 30 unit property. You can only get 300 units there. Whereas if you put 4 stories of apartment buildings there, your density is going to be 4x. So you're probably going to get 1,200 units there on that same piece of property. Okay, well then
Interesting.
mobile home park rent being $500 to $700 in that same marketplace, brand new apartments built would probably be somewhere in the range of 2,000, 2,500 a
Right.
month.
Yep.
So then do the math. You got 4x the number of units, and then you have 3 or 4x the rental amount, and then you're the city who's collecting taxes on that.
Ah,
Choose. Choose. Okay, so that's one side of it is like the potential for tax revenue. The other side of it
interesting.
is to kind of defend cities' lack of giving that zoning. It's usually a losing proposition for them
Hmm.
to give zoning for a mobile home park because they're still required to provide services to the resident, those 300 residents, school and fire and police and
Right.
all those kind of things that the cost that they the cost to provide those services is less than the tax revenue that they gather. So it's a little bit of a business decision with respect to cities, but you won't get in a primary or secondary city, you will not get the city to give you zoning for a piece of land like that. You just won't.
Well,
If you have grandfather zoning, maybe you could get them
right.
to allow you if it was already zoned that way, but you wouldn't get them to give you the zoning.
Well, I know for a fact my county will not allow any more new mobile home parks built because
There you
that has
go.
already been. So I'm thank you for explaining why, because I was always just curious. I have a 5-year goal of creating a micro resort, which looks kind of like it would be a mobile home park, but it's going to be either tiny cabins or A-frames, just little small ones where people can go and just have around a lake or something. And so I am always looking at mobile home parks and taking them and maybe converting them because all the utilities, the structure's already there. So that's something I'm always looking at. And I have found in Wake County where I live that they absolutely will not allow any more building of mobile home parks. So the whole taxing of it makes so much more sense. So I do appreciate you explaining that to me. So
Yeah, then you look at the other
yeah,
side of that. Like if you said, okay, well, let's just get out of the city. Let's go out in the a
right.
county, then you run into utility issues.
Uh,
And the cost of developing the property with your own private utilities becomes the barrier. So
interest, because
that
that I'm
doesn't
used
mean
to the
that there's not,
septics, right?
yeah, so there's still new mobile home parks built. So Texas is the most favorable.
Okay.
They're the most growth focused in their most of the new mobile home parks in the United States get built in Texas, but it's like a dozen parks per year. This is not like hundreds.
Wow.
And when I say that, I mean parks of size, 100 lots or more. There are more parks knocked over for redevelopment into another use in Phoenix alone. There was a dozen parks knocked over last year in Phoenix. So like across the country, there's probably 100 mobile home parks that disappear every year. So
Mm.
it's an asset class that's becoming scarce, and really good quality mobile home parks are they're becoming more and more rare.
Interesting. So going back to that loaded question I gave you, what do you look for when you're purchasing? Like, how do you assess a mobile home park that you are going to purchase?
So for us, now this may be different for somebody else, but for us, and we've been doing this for a while, our number one focus is what is the market. So location, location, location matters
Good.
the most. So not just the market itself, but the location of the property in the market. So what's the submarket? We like to be in markets where the median home value is at least 300,000 or greater.
Nice.
There's a purpose behind this. If you mobile homes, a single wide mobile home of decent quality, let's call it 2x6 construction, R19 insulation, kind of built like a single family home with standard size cabinets and some stainless steel appliances and drywall, right? That kind of so it feels like an actual home, just
Yep.
comes in on wheels and it gets set up. They're probably about $100,000 in cost once they're delivered and set up with air conditioning unit and everything. That cost is the same no matter where you are in the country. They get delivered, they come from the same factory. There may be a little bit of cost because in California or New York City, it's the contractors charge more.
Right.
But for the most part, it's about $100,000. So now think about the affordability factor. If you're in a market where you can buy a single family home in the same neighborhood for 150 grand, where you own the land,
Mm-hmm.
why would you buy a house in a park where you don't own the land? There's not
Gotcha.
enough incentive.
Well
What
said.
we've discovered is if the delta is large enough, then the cost of living there is substantially less, and that's the affordability factor. So the more expensive market, the more affordable a mobile home is.
Interesting. Very cool.
So
So,
that's the first thing that we look at is the
okay.
market.
Anything else you want to tack on there?
Yes, the other things that we'd look at is, what in our view, quality. Quality is important. So in the mobile home park business, commercial real estate, they rate things as class A, class B,
Right.
C, D, like that. In the mobile home park business, and I don't know why they did this, they rate it on a star rating. And it goes from 1 star to 5 stars, just like you would have reviews on Google.
On this podcast.
Yeah, that's right. So,
Wow.
and 1 star parks, you don't want to go there at night, and you
Oh.
should be packing some heat.
Oh.
And a 5 star park is a brand new gated subdivision.
Oh.
Beautiful.
Okay.
So we believe that the value is in the middle. So 3 star parks they're in safe neighborhoods, they're of good quality or solid quality, and you come in there and you do some capital improvements to it, they'll be the nicest asset in the neighborhood. But they're a clean, safe, affordable place to live.
Nice.
Usually they'll have paved streets, sidewalks, some
Okay.
amenities. They're just like moving into a normal subdivision. They're nice.
Okay.
Whereas 2 star parks are more like high density, gravel roads, no amenities, typically a little more rural, but they can also be urban. And then 1 star that's where the stereotype comes from, is from the 1 star parks.
Okay.
That is the trailer trash. We don't buy those.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned amenities a few times, and is that something that can provide value add when you purchase a mobile home park and maybe it wasn't run very well at all, and you add certain amenities? What amenities make the most bang for your buck? What does that kind of look like?
Yeah, again, nuanced question, but let's talk about this. So amenities are things that a mobile home park is a parking lot where with utility hookups. That's
Okay.
a mobile home park and roads. People bring in their homes and they have affordable living. Amenities are going to be anything that's in addition to that. So a pool, a spa, a clubhouse, like a
Hmm.
place where people can have birthday parties and that kind of thing. And then things like playgrounds, if it's a family park, and dog runs and those kind of sport courts and those kind of thing, like basketball court. Whereas in a senior park, it would probably be more like pickleball or
Shuffleboard.
yeah, shuffleboard, right?
Yep.
Yep. So it depends on the park, like what amenities that you would add. But typically, either those amenities are already there when you buy the property,
Okay.
or there's an ability to add amenities if there's extra room, and then you're just improving the experience for the residents that live there. And that is the goal. You buy a property, the goal is let me make this be the best experience in the neighborhood. And that way we can raise rent up to the
Yep.
market. And then we can also, if there's vacant spaces, it becomes extremely attractive for new residents. They come in, they're like, wow, I want to live here. This is an amazing neighborhood. So most of the parks that we buy, there's vacant lots or there's vacant homes that come with the park from the previous owner. And there's sales that are required there. So you're not renting out apartment units. You're selling homes.
That was
And
another one of my questions. So because you said only two, and it was because someone passed away and the kids didn't want the property, but you just turn around, maybe you go in and rehab them and then sell them, and then
exactly,
okay. So you're not
exactly.
renting them out.
Yeah, there's a rare case where rentals make sense.
Okay.
We have a resort community down in southern Arizona, and people come from like Canada and like the upper
Hmm.
Midwest where it's freezing in the wintertime, and they spend 5 to 6 months in southern Arizona just soaking up the sun. At that property, it's all seniors. Half of them are kind of wealthy or wealthier than you think because they're living in a mobile home park. But we'll have 5 to 6 units that we kind of Airbnb. So they're
Really?
vacation rentals. And the
Nice.
point behind that is you need to have a place for friends to come down. Like, oh, you gotta come, you gotta buy a house here. And people are like, hold on, I'm not buying a house in a mobile home park. I said, well, just come and rent one of these units and you'll see. And then they come down and they get the experience. They're like, holy smokes, yes, I need to live here.
Right.
Like permanently have a place here. So it gives them an opportunity to kind of test drive the experience. And then somebody's always has their house for sale. Some people are getting to where they're too old to travel. So they'll put their house for sale. So it's in those kind of senior parks, it's almost from us, it's a business strategy to like knowing that you're going to have people that put their homes for sale. You want to have new people excited about buying those homes.
That is so smart. And I was telling you before we hit play here that I hit record here that I grew up in Florida. And there are some mobile home parks in Florida that are so fun. You think of the plastic flamingos and stuff like that, but these are decked out. They don't look like mobile homes either. And it's like, wow, I kind of dig that type of community. That's all I have reference to. Up here in North Carolina, the ones that we go by are not, they're more the probably 1 to 2 stars in the areas that I'm looking because they're on the outskirts because they're not allowing them to build them into the towns. But that's really interesting. So before we go to talk about your company 5210 and how maybe some of the listeners, if they want to invest with you, are there any common misconceptions about mobile home park investing that you'd like to clear up for the listeners?
I don't know if there's common misconceptions about investing. Once people understand it,
Mm-hmm.
they're all in. It really stands out. The crowd that follows us around and is on a programmatic basis invests again and again and again in each one of the properties that we acquire. They understand what's really there. I think the misconception is the stereotype, the trailer trash. So people
Right.
just don't look deeper. What's really interesting is different check sizes view investing differently. So what we found is entry level passive investors writing a 50,000 or $100,000 check, they're usually asking, how much can I make and how soon can I get my money back?
Right.
Whereas the
Excuse me.
larger check writers is asking, how much tax benefit can I get
Ooh.
and how can we never sell? In other words, we're not paying it back and yet get my money back. So and there's not a lot of asset classes where it makes well, there's no other asset classes in our experience because I've done land, I've done single family homes, condos, I did a little bit of office, did a lot of apartments. There's no asset class where you can get the combination of stability, mean preservation of loss, like you're not really putting your capital at risk to events that you can't control. So, and I'll shine a spotlight on this after, and then the tax benefit. Like you put those
Right.
two combinations, and then you still get a nice yield. You still get a mid-teen IRR, and there's a coupon along the way. And there's just a lot of powerful performance attributes that you'd be surprised by when you look at it through the lens of, I want to be in the fancy glass Class A apartment because
Right.
that this looks sexy. But what's sexy about mobile home parks may not be what it looks like. Although you'd be surprised, some of our
I,
properties are
I
gated
know.
subdivisions.
They're
Um,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, but what's sexy is the performance,
That is
and
very
once you
cool.
understand that, it's great. So back to that comment that now I lost my train of thought.
About
Let's go back to your
misconceptions.
questions.
So
Yeah,
misconceptions for people.
trying to think of what was the point that I was trying to make.
You were talking about taxes too, because I really want to get into what the tax benefits
Let's talk about
are.
that. Let's talk about
Okay.
that and the why, because most people
Okay.
are not familiar with the why, especially now that the new administration has brought back the bonus depreciation to
Yep.
100%, and that's permanent.
Huge.
Huge, yeah. So think about a piece of real estate, and let's call it a $10 million commercial property.
Okay.
And let's do a comparison between a $10 million mobile home park. In the commercial property, whether it's an apartment or a industrial building or an office, it doesn't make a difference. Most of the value of the property is in the building.
Okay.
So a little bit of value is in the parking lot and the landscaping, and if it's an apartment, maybe it has a pool, right? So typically land is going to be about 20% of the value of the property, which you cannot depreciate. So you have $8 million left that you can depreciate. In a commercial property, of your standard commercial property, about 7 million of that is the building, and maybe $1 million is capital improvements, or excuse me, land improvements.
Okay.
Land improvements fall into a class of 15-year life. So then in the eyes of the IRS, they say that those will last 15 years. That's the lifespan that they have. And then you have to replace them. Buildings, on the commercial side, it's 39 years. And on the residential side, it's 27 and a half years.
Right.
The cutoff for bonus depreciation is 20.
Okay.
So anything that falls into a useful life of 20 years or less can be expensed in the calendar year that the property is purchased. So the write-off you get from bonus depreciation, where moving forward it's 100%, is the amount of value that the property has that has a 20-year life or less.
Okay.
So in the commercial building, that's about $1 million in a $10 million property. Now you can still go through a cost segregation study and you can get more of it.
Yep.
So you could get maybe 30 or 40% of the property's value to qualify for bonus depreciation. But in the mobile home park, it's the flip side of that.
It's the
About $1
land.
million, well, $2 million is still land. There's
Okay.
$8 million left, but then about $1 million is the building. It's the office or the clubhouse or the laundry facility, right?
Gotcha.
All the rest is land improvements. So you'll have
Ah.
$7 million of land improvements in that general example. And all of that gets to be written off or taken as bonus depreciation in year one. Here's where this really starts to get powerful. If you're buying a $10 million property, are you paying cash, $10 million cash for it?
No.
How much money are you probably putting down on a conservative basis?
20%?
Conservatively, let's call it 4 million.
Okay.
Like you're really conservative. You don't want to over leverage. So you got $6 million in debt, $4 million
Gotcha. Okay.
in cash, right? And then let's say that you're going to raise another $500,000 or even $1 million for capital improvements. You're going to
Okay.
really make this place nice, right? So you have $5 million of capital involved in this property, but you have $7 million of losses. So depending on the debt, I know there's some nuance and we don't need to get into that here, but investors are definitely going to get dollar for dollar passive losses. You invest $1 on your K1 that year, you get a loss of $1. There's cases where you could get 150% coverage. So the tax benefits are so substantial. It's more attractive than the yield.
Wow.
That's why people love investing. Well, that's why intelligent investors love mobile home parks. And then on top of that, you're not going to lose your money. Well, if you invest with a responsible operator, your risk is extremely low. Mobile home parks. Oh, this is what I was going to share with you. They foreclosure, remember 2008 through 2011?
Unfortunately, yes.
I think everybody that is investing in real estate has some exposure to a
Yep.
painful memory there. Almost every asset class was riddled with foreclosure.
Right.
When Nate and I started this business, the first thing we did is said, what survived that GFC crisis the best? We looked at mobile home parks because I had tripped over them. We looked at Arizona in all the markets we wanted to be in, 0 foreclosures. Said, oh, it's interesting. We looked in Texas in all the markets we wanted to be in, 0 foreclosures.
Wow.
We looked in Nevada at all the markets we wanted to be in, 0 foreclosures. That was kind of a clue. these things don't go to foreclosure. It's because of the stability. It's because of the home ownership of the residents. And then think about this. When everybody is struggling and they're seeking to get a more affordable housing solution, where do they go?
Well,
Turns out the most affordable housing solution is in high demand during those times.
gotcha.
When things are expensive, like they are today, how can somebody find affordable housing? Again, turns out mobile home parks are in high demand. So it's so important when you're looking at investing to look at worst case scenario. What happens if we get another GFC kind of crisis? Is it possible, even if I have a great operator and we make good decisions and we're conservative with our debt, could the rug still be pulled out from underneath me? And the answer is yes. We saw
Yeah.
really responsible apartment owners
Hmm.
where they still had the rug pulled out and the bank took their asset because they couldn't refinance. They couldn't meet the DCR requirements when their loan became due. But they were still good people and they
Yeah.
made intelligent decisions. They were conservative with their debt. But the problem was they lost tenants
Ah,
and now their income went down. Or they had to lower their rent to fill up their vacant units because people were tightening their belt. Yeah, those people that they lost came to me.
came to you. Exactly.
That's where they came.
Wow.
So it's such a stable real estate investment. And then, of course, you add the tax benefit and it gets kind of silly.
So when you were discussing depreciation, I really thought you were going to say because the land is what you really own, and then they have their houses on the land, and that's why the taxes are so much better. But there's all those other layers in there because you can't take the land away. You can take the house away, but so interesting. All right, so let's go a little bit into 5210. By the way, where does the lion over your right shoulder, where does that logo come from? What's the lion for?
My business partner, Nate, is a former marketing nerd,
Okay.
and he's surrounded by a bunch of gals that he used to work with, and they went through an exhaustive exercise. The lion stands for the protector.
Oh,
So if you think about if you're going to invest your capital with somebody, you want someone that will be fiercely protective of it, like a lion is of his pride. So that's kind of the background.
very cool. Thank you for that. I was just curious. So 5210, it is an investor centric approach you have for disciplined business model is what I have in my notes here. But if there's listeners out there who they've heard this is a great place to invest is through mobile homes. Maybe they don't want to own the mobile home park themselves, but what do you look for? How do people invest with 5210 and what does that whole process look like?
Yeah, I think that before I share that, it's important to share, even if you don't invest with me, like mobile home parks are smart.
Yeah.
Doing it yourself, it is a grind. It is one of the hardest asset classes to tap into because there's scarcity and there's
Yep.
less people chasing it, but there's less inventory available. Large parks are really where you gain economies of scale. Getting into that space is extremely difficult. Operations are tough. You have to build it all internal, but it's worth it in the long run. I
Okay.
mean, I could do apartments in my sleep by comparison, but when you get a fully stabilized mobile home park, which is 100% of the lots have a home on them and they're all owned by the tenant, all the capital improvements are done and there's no deferred maintenance. I mean, it's just becomes a cash machine
Right.
and your expenses are really low in comparison. And you don't have turnover. Like it's just a steady cash machine. So doing it yourself is obviously an option. Encourage those that like to roll up their sleeves and go do this themselves to pursue that angle. But if you're going to invest passively, here's what you should look for. First of all, they should have a good track record. They should know what they're doing. So you don't want to get in bed with the first time
Yep.
mobile home park owner because there is so much to learn. Those are the ones that typically don't go in the right direction,
Okay.
or at least they have the most challenges. I think the most important thing to get right, and this is irrespective of your investment in any asset class, get the people right. Could have a great deal, Jen, and you got a nefarious heart as the operator, they will take advantage of you, full
Mm,
stop. So make sure you really get to know and can find, the question to ask is, if everything goes right, I'm sure I can trust this person. But what happens when it goes wrong?
Yeah.
Can I trust this person to communicate with me, to deliver on time, to be honest with me, and fight for my best interests when things are going sideways? If you can't say yes to that, move on. Like that would
Okay.
be my main advice.
Well said.
Here's a few other things that I think are really important. Transparency is the hardest thing to gain. Well, as a passive investor, let's call it you and me, you
Okay.
are considering investing with me, but you don't really know me. All the research that you've done causes you to say, well, this looks good. Your conversations go really well. But how do I know that this guy is not going to go Bernie Madoff on me?
Okay.
How do I know he's not going to start skimming a little bit? And I'm like in the background, just enough to where I wouldn't notice. How do I know he's not going to commingle or misappropriate funds?
Huge.
How do I know that this guy, even he's a real estate guy, how do I know he's not going to make some mistakes? And that mistake would be to his benefit. How do I know? And how can someone like Jack Martin and 5210 design a business model to where all of those potentials are off the table? It's called third party administration.
Okay.
So there are firms out there that essentially play the neutral party referee in the middle. So they manage all of the capital coming in. They reconcile all the books on a monthly
Smart.
basis.
Very smart.
They produce all the financial statements and balance sheets. They produce all the distributions that go out on a quarterly basis. They distribute the return of capital and the proceeds when you sell. They work with the tax accountants to make sure that the K-1s are done on time and they're accurate. And then we get to focus on the real estate. That's what we're
Nice.
great at.
Good.
So we outsource that for two reasons. One, it simplifies our business, but two, it provides the highest level of transparency and accuracy that's possible. So I think if that ingredient is not present, got to get really, really comfortable that they're honorable
Okay.
in their back office function that would essentially do the same thing. Yeah, and then look at your passive investment like a marriage. Seriously,
Okay.
seriously. Most of these investments they're not 6 months. These are 7 to 10 years
Okay.
that you're gonna, and we have a tax favored strategy that's indefinite. That's the goal. We want to purchase property, take the maximum bonus depreciation up front, refinance at intervals and return all the capital so the risk is off the table, and then keep the coupon forever. The only loser in that deal is Uncle Sam.
Yeah. Good.
He never gets. And then we die, and the kids get stepped up basis, and he still doesn't get his.
Nice.
So it's a patient, long-term strategy where you can rinse and repeat, and just get massive tax value, but you still keep the coupon. Every time you refinance, you get tax-free proceeds from the refinance. So it's that strategy mixed with mobile home parks is amazing. So that's generally what we do. But what I was going to say about the marriage is if you marry somebody and you don't really believe that you could coexist peacefully for a decade, yeah, if you're talking to somebody who's the operator of your investment, the steward of your capital, you better be pretty confident that you can coexist peacefully, or that it's going to be a great, great experience. You should really gain a handle on that.
Thank you for going through all that because it is so important and you're an open book, and that's yet another reason why I'm sure there are listeners out there saying, I have 50K. I liked what this guy says. I like he uses third party systems in here. What does it look like for someone who has 50,000 who wants to invest with you? When are they getting interest paid to them? And when you talk about refinancing, but they're staying in the deal, or are you refinancing them out of the
Yep.
deal? What does that look like for someone with 50K who wants to invest with you?
Yeah. So first of all, if you want to invest 50K, I'm not your guy.
Okay.
So our minimums are 100. It
Okay.
still lets retail investor play. We have two different ways of investing, but one is in the real estate itself, and then what's coming soon in the fall or probably the winter of this year is you can invest in the homes.
Mm,
So you can be like the chattel financing backing the homes. But the real estate is the most common one. So $100,000 invest. The day that your capital arrives in the partnership account, it begins to accrue what's called a 7% preferred return,
Okay.
which means the first 7% goes to the LPs. LP stands for limited partner. That's
Yep.
also synonymous with investor. Before the general partner, that's me, gets a dime.
Okay.
So from the cash flow from operations of the property, you have to receive 7% on a cumulative basis before the GP gets a nickel. If there's a shortfall in any calendar year, that shortfall carries forward. So let's say that we're able to produce 4% in year one. Well, we still owe you 3. So next year, we owe you the 7 again, plus 3, which is 10.
Nice.
And so that goes until that preferred hurdle is met. A hurdle meaning that 7% cumulative return to all the LPs is met. After that, we start to share cash flow. That's the game that we're in. So I want to buy a property. I want to reposition it. I want to, as soon as possible, meet that 7% preferred return so that you and I can start sharing capital. Our long-term strategy involves additional hurdles. Once you get to 15, the split becomes a little bit less in your favor, meaning, well, it starts out, it's wildly in the favor of the LP. They get most of it
Okay.
after the 7%, but I want to pursue where we're equal partners someday. Most of these properties, it'll take me 12 to 15 years before I'm equal partners. But then by then you've gotten all your capital back and you probably made a 15, 20, or 25% return, depending on the size of the check you wrote. And now, well, we have the same exact aligned interest. Every dollar I make benefits you just as much as it benefits me. That's the whole game.
Very cool. My question is, when are those payouts? Do you pay quarterly,
So,
monthly,
yep.
annually?
Yeah, distributions of cash flow are quarterly, and that
Okay.
goes on every 90 days like clockwork. We're pretty proud to say we've been on time going on 9 years now. We've never missed one except for there was one time we were 2 weeks late. And that was because we were switching software and we had to get the software done. It took longer than we thought. That's all the accounting software. But we were 99% of the time exactly, you could set your calendar by us. Same thing with tax documents. Never been late on tax documents. So
Nice.
March every year. So, and then when we do return of capital, it depends on the market and the interest rates, but typically we're seeking to start returning capital in years 3, 4, or 5. So we'll reposition the property. It'll be worth more money and we'll tap into that equity. We're pretty conservative. So we're really trying to leverage 65, 70% max.
Wow.
And yeah, then that capital goes back to the investors. So you have less risk. So the goal is to return capital back to investors as fast as possible so that all of the risk is removed. We still own the property. They still own their percentage interest. They still own the cash flow and proceeds from future refinance, and we haven't paid taxes. And then we just rinse and repeat, rinse and
Wow.
repeat.
That is so well explained, and I appreciate you taking the time to do that because all these numbers and things that you are good at, it's tough for the listener to kind of see where they fit in there. So thank you for taking the time to do that. So before we move to the second part of the podcast here, how do people get a hold of you? You are, in my eyes, an educator first. And I love that you really broke things down. You said what to look for people. And by the way, here's my company, but you were very specific in how to find people to invest in and very open about it. So if people have questions about investing in mobile home parks, or if they want to invest with 5210, how do they get in touch with you?
Easiest way is to go to our website, 5210.com. That's the number 52 and then TEN.com.
Good.
Go to the contact page, fill out a little form, and the response will be me inviting you to put a call on my calendar.
Perfect. Well, this has been fabulous. You really have sparked some interest for me, and it's just, I've seen them. I have a handful of friends that invest in mobile home parks and they are super, super successful. For me, for a long time, I'm like, oh, it's not sexy. But man, you are making this sound sexy. So I do appreciate that. We are going to move to the second part of the podcast here, Jack Martin, which is what makes you a badass. And I use the acronym BADASS. And the first letter is B for book. What is a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
I think the best book that was written on real estate cycles. Has probably had the most profound impact on how I view acquisitions and dispositions. It's called The Secret Life of Real Estate and Banking.
Okay.
It's written by Philip J. Anderson. He's from Australia.
Hmm.
It's written primarily about American real estate, and it goes back 200 years and it tracks the rise and fall of real estate.
Wow.
And it interweaves greed, fear, politics,
Interesting.
and banking. So it's just a fascinating book, but it's very predictive. So I'm not going to spoil it for the readers, but there actually is a cycle that is rarely off by more than 12 months.
Interesting.
So, and hint, hint, we are coming to one end of that cycle coming up in a couple of years here.
Let's hope. Goodness. Well, thank you. I have to check that one out. And I had a gentleman from Australia, an investor, and he was investing in, who was on the podcast, and he was investing in the States. And it was very interesting to hear the two different countries and everything. So thank you for sharing that. All right. The first A in Badass is for advice. You've given us great advice about mobile home parks today. But I'm curious, Jack, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I meet regularly with a group of large mobile home park owners. So these are industry leaders. They're in the top 50 owners in the United States. We're just top 100, so we're still a toddler in comparison. But one of the gentlemen, when I asked him like what has made the most profound difference in the scaling of your building a portfolio, his answer was really simple yet really powerful. He said, make decisions fast and give your team the autonomy to also make decisions fast.
I like it.
And I think that applies to life too.
Sure.
So yeah, make decisions fast. That's probably the best advice.
I have a husband who's an accountant, and so it is in his blood to be not make decisions fast at all. And he suffers the analysis paralysis, everything. He wants to know every ins and outs of it. And I'm with you. I'm like, make a decision fast. Let's go. What's for dinner is our biggest one, by the way. What are we having for dinner tonight? You pick. No, you pick. Okay. We actually bought a die that has different things on it. Then you just roll it up. We're getting salads tonight. Tonight's chicken wings. All right. I digress. So we are moving to the D in Badass, which is for drive. What drives you to be successful?
I have 7 children.
And you are one of how many children yourself?
I'm one of 17. Yeah, I didn't choose that. That's where the Lord put me. So yeah, a large family, obviously, that love to create success. But I think more than that, I'm driven by challenging myself to see what I'm capable of.
Wow. Goodness, 7 kids. That's a basketball team with some sitting on the bench. So goodness gracious. All right. I'm impressed. I taught middle school for 16 years, so I'm allergic to children. I developed that allergy, so none for me myself, but God bless you for having large families. All right. The second A in Badass is for aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal you are currently working on?
Nate and I obviously have goals on the business side of things, but I'm going to focus on a personal thing. Andrew and I, my bride of almost 30 years now,
Wow.
we've been taking self-guided marriage retreats for about 6 years. And it has, surprise, surprise, I got to know her more in the last 6 years than I did in the first 23.
Interesting.
And it's been so powerful for us, we're writing a book. So the aspiration is to publish a book called The Self-Guided Marriage Retreat.
What do you mean by self-guided? What does that mean?
Oh yeah, you're not going to a place. You choose the location and you walk through a very regimented process. It's just a handful of exercises and it's a workbook. And it helps you work on your marriage and your life and the support of your partner 90 days at a time. It's really neat.
Wow. I can't wait for that book. When is that coming out?
If I meet my goals, it'll be this fall.
That is awesome. Very, very cool. Jack, you are so impressive. All right. The first S in badass is for systems. What systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
I would give about a third of the credit to the success that we've had at 5210 to business architecture called EOS.
Okay.
EOS stands for the Entrepreneur Operating System. It's explained in another book called Traction, written by Gino Wickman.
Gino Wickman.
Gino Wickman.
Rock.
And it's just, rocks and goals and KPIs, and it's amazing. So it really, what it does is it takes the confusion out of business, and it has everybody rowing in the same direction, aimed at the same dot on the wall. And when something is off, it doesn't become something you discover a year later. You can discover it right away. Something's out of place, and you can solve for it. So yeah, tremendous business architecture. Most of our processes are centered on that.
I have not read that. It's been in a hot minute. It's been, we read it early in our business career, so I need to dust that one off. And thank you for bringing up Gino Wickman. Jack, I could talk to you all day. I did not realize how excited I was going to be over mobile home parks before starting this conversation with you. But the final S in badass is for success. What does success mean to you?
Ooh, that's a great question. I am a God-centric person.
Okay.
So the ultimate success is to hear the words, well done, good and faithful one. That would be the ultimate success. But yeah, I don't think it would have to do with finance. Here, temporally, I think you could say legacy, how you were looked at, but what can I provide to all the people in my life where it would say my life is better because he's there?
Well, that is a perfect way to end this podcast, Jack. So great meeting you. And thank you for all these wonderful insights into this industry and the whole recession-proof because of what's going on right now and this cycle from this book that you read about from the Australian guy. And all of this is just really is an eye-opener into this industry. And I do truly appreciate you sharing all of your information about mobile home parks today. Thank you, Jack.
Well, it is Friday, Jen, and we said let's wrap up the week with a bang. So whoop, whoop, like you like to say.
Whoop, whoop. That is my secret. Whenever I go and speak at events, I go whoop, whoop. And because I run a mastermind. And so if there's any RAIN mastermind members out there, they go whoop, whoop back. So if you're going up like an escalator at a conference and just out of nowhere, whoop, whoop, and then you hear another whoop, whoop, you're like, my people are here. So that's where that comes from. But Jack,
I love it.
Thank you so much for being here. It has been such a pleasure. I hope you have a lovely rest of your weekend.
You too. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you. And that is all. Thank you for listening. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josey by visiting therealjenjosey.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.